Coming, we want to get started. So real quick, just some announcements. The Portland Psychedelic Society is a 501c3 nonprofit. We are here at the Paris every Thursday night. This is our home territory. The Paris is really great with supporting us, so we want to support them. They bring in CBD colas and kombucha and a variety of stuff just for our group. So please support the Paris and their bar here. We're here every Thursday. You can find us on our Meetup or our Facebook group to see what events we have planned. And we're also looking to expand our volunteer organization. If you're interested and you have a skill set and have some time, a couple hours a week, please get in touch with me or Helen, and we're looking to expand the number of volunteers we have so that we can do more cool workshops and seminars. We have Paul Stamets, the famous mycologist, coming to a conference in September, and we're working on getting Dennis McKenna to speak for us in October, so those are big events that we have coming up. So for tonight, also, we are a nonprofit, and we are always looking to collect funds. If you have a couple of bucks, please put it in the jar and also support the Paris. We use this money to do more cool events and cool content, including smaller group sessions where everyone can share. For our topic tonight, it's about Kambo, and we've got Tara here. She's excited to present a lot of information. She has some videos she's going to show as well. But curious to know who has experience with Kambo, who's ever gone. Okay, so there's about a third of the room has actually done it themselves. Okay, well that's good. So some people know kind of the subject matter already firsthand, which can be pretty intense. Well, thank you very much, Tara. Please welcome her, and thanks a lot for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
It's hard, but you kind of have to like put it right up on. No, it should be on the
Check.
Yeah, gotta kind of keep it up. Okay. Awesome. I'm gonna hand this around, everybody. Please, if you can, put a couple dollars into it.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming out on this beautiful night when you could be outside in the sunshine. So I'm really excited to talk about Kambo with you today. For me, it's been very much a life-changing experience. I never set out to do Kambo. It was not on my radar. And this amazing tree frog that lives in the Amazon jungle that has no known predators, because it has such a powerful toxin that it exudes on its skin, I had no idea that I was going to meet with this creature in any way, shape, or form. And the reason that I did was because I went through an existential crisis. And what that looked like was I decided that I needed to answer whatever my highest soul calling was. And so in order to do that, I knew that I needed to give up the work that I was doing because I felt inside that it wasn't my highest calling, even though it was beautiful work. And that plunged me into a lot of anxiety and brought up all of my issues. And so I started to struggle and have insomnia. I started to feel depressed and scared. And a friend of mine who happened to be a Kambo practitioner said, "You should try Kambo. It will help with anxiety. It will help with depression. It will help with anything that doesn't seem to be flowing in your life." So I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a shot. So she came over to my house and she brought the medicine and she instructed me, okay, for 12 hours you're not going to eat before this happens. And then I'm going to have you drink 3 liters of water very quickly. And then I'm going to take a stick of incense and I'm going to burn your arm, or actually, excuse me, it was my ankle first time. And then she was going to apply the frog resin to my skin. And she told me that I would get sick, and she told me that I would throw up, and that afterwards I was going to feel really good, and that life was just going to start flowing again. And I was really open to this experience because I'm a person that really loves natural medicine, and as an intuitive healer, I understand that when we have blocks in our lives, it's because a lot of the time we have energetic density, that we need some kind of higher power, some form of divine intervention in order to move. So the idea that a natural medicine in the form of a frog from the Amazon jungle might be that divine intervention, to me was something I was very receptive and open to exploring. So I came to this with a sense of openness and curiosity and a sense that there was nothing to lose, maybe this would help. So it did help, and I'd like to show you a little bit about what this process looks like. Would you like to see it?
Yes.
Are you comfortable with seeing me throw up? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to show you the beginning of the process where she burns your skin. So the frog venom is applied transdermally through the skin. You don't ingest it. So I'm going to show you that. And this, by the way, the videos you're going to see are from the 32nd time I did this. So you could see this really works, or I wouldn't have kept coming back. But I want to show you what it looks like so you can feel like you're part of this process here with me.
Me 10 burns. This is a lot, but this is what our divination says we need, or I need today. And you're going to see this process. While she does this, I'm going to hold my intention in my mind to steal me through the discomfort and pain of it, which is to remove blocks from sharing my work with the world, my medicine. Now she's going to apply the frog medicine.
So you can see I'm pretty upset there because it's really painful to get burned, and I'm also like a really sensitive person. So I want to share as well, like when she said, yeah, so you should really try this frog medicine, this really powerful, intense cleanse. It's going to help you and it's going to make you throw up. That wasn't something that I was like initially really excited about. I actually had a lot of resistance. And the reason that I really said yes to it was, A, just being in this intense emotional discomfort, but B, also because everywhere I looked, I saw frogs. I mean that. Like, everywhere I looked, I saw frogs. I would open up the newspaper, and there would be a full-page ad of a frog. I went for a walk on Sauvie Island and the Wapato Loop, where I've often gone, and I just saw tons of these tiny little frogs everywhere. I've never seen them there before. It was really strange. So I started to sense that the frogs were kind of calling me. When I had this experience of like repeating omens of frogs, that was something that strengthened my resolve to follow through with this experience. So now you get to see the actual experience after she has applied the frog resin. This is the next video.
Kambo anayawena ayanewa Kambo ene Kambo ena Kambo ena ewarewe ewarewena Kambo ea Kambo ea ekurame kurame.
And you're listening to a medicine song sung by the practitioner to activate the medicine. So what's happening to my body at this time is my face is swelling up, my hands, look how red my hands are. My hands and feet are filled with blood, they're all swollen, my throat is swollen, I'm having trouble breathing. I'm feeling like I have the flu. I'm in pain through my whole body. I'm really sick and nauseous, and I'm focusing on breathing into energetic blockages and trying to pull them up and throw them out into the bucket. And what I mean by energetic blockages is I'm focusing on areas of tension in the body, I'm scanning it kind of in a meditative way. And on the in-breath, I'm like grabbing those blockages, and then on the out-breath, I'm letting them come right out, as you see. Okay, thank you for the video. And the practitioner there, thank you. The practitioner there is rattling, and she also at other times was drumming and singing to activate the medicine and to help those energetic blockages move. So she's playing an important role in the treatment. And another aspect of the treatment that was really important was the intention setting, which isn't captured on the video. So Kambo medicine, as you can see, is a purgative. It makes you throw up, and it's a detoxifier. It detoxifies your physical body. It throws out fluids that are in your organ systems that are blocked, that are stuck, that are in excess. It also throws out emotional and spiritual toxins. From the perspective of holistic medicine, Chinese medicine, herbalism, energy medicine, and so forth, we know that the physical body's illnesses are really manifestations of emotional illnesses, of spiritual illnesses. So it's all connected. And based on what color fluid you throw up, the practitioner can recognize what emotion you are actually throwing out. And in that bucket, you probably noticed it was clear what was coming out. And that's not just because it was water, it was clear because it was also throwing out phlegm from the lungs, which in my case was grief. So many times when I was sitting with this medicine, I was throwing out that emotion. And I would set my intention with an awareness of whatever I felt was in excess in my body, or whatever I was aware of was happening, was being brought up or triggered in my life. And it was really interesting. I ended up doing this treatment 33 times, and each time I went into it, I didn't want to do it. Each time I would say to the practitioner, talk me into this, convince me. As I'm sitting here, I don't want to drink 3 liters of water really fast. I don't want to throw up. I don't want you to burn me. I don't want to get sick. And every single time, I considered getting up and going, you know, I don't have to do this. I could go see a shaman. I've been seeing lots of shamans. Why am I sitting here? I'd ask myself that question every single time. And the reason I just kept going through with it was because of the synchronicities, because I kept seeing frogs everywhere, because of an inner knowing that I was being called to do this, and because it works. It really worked. Every single time I would come in to receive a treatment, something would be up for me, whether it was an intense emotion of rage that had been flowing through me, or an intense emotion of grief that had been flowing through me, or intense emotions of anxiety, or I had become aware of a blockage or repeating pattern in my life. Whatever it might be, I would set this intention. I would come in and I would say, thank you, Kambo Frog, for finding me all the way up in Portland. Thank you for coming into my life. I'm going to trust you with my body. I'm going to trust you with my spirit. I'm going to ask you to cleanse me for my highest good and so that I can be aligned with my soul. And I would find that after each session, immediately after, I felt better. I felt emotionally lighter. And for about 2 weeks, I would feel like I was living as my best self. I like just totally in my center, able to meditate, most positive mindset. And like I shared, I got into this because I was going through an existential crisis. What do I do with my life? And meanwhile, I had this inner strong guidance. Don't do anything. Do not apply for a job. Do not initiate any of your many ideas. Just be still. And I listened to that, and it was very scary. And so I could handle it and be meditating and surrendering and trusting for about 2 weeks, and then the anxiety and the fear and everything would come back. So I just went through this process roughly every 2 to 3 weeks for about 1.5 years. There would be periods where I would do it more often in a week, like 4 times in a week, and periods where maybe a month or longer would go. And I just decided when to do it really based on when I saw frogs, and when I sensed inside that I was meant to do it. And it was really interesting because we are all living in this reality, this paradigm of attraction. We know that whatever our internal makeup is creating our experience. We know that we live in a waking dream that's really not much different from our asleep dreams, and that every character in our waking dream is really an external manifestation of something inside of us. So knowing that, I would see these patterns playing out in my life, and I would think about what I was ready to shift. And the frog would show me the connections between what was happening and what was inside of me. And then I was able to cast that out through this really interesting purgative experience. So because I was able to clear out so much pain and difficulty that I've been carrying, I started to be more available as an expansive energetic being to finer, subtler, higher vibrational frequencies, because pain is a very heavy and dense frequency that takes up space. And when you can cast it out, you become available to embody more of your soul and to receive more of your own intuitive guidance, to be more plugged in and connected to all that is. And so I started to find myself having greater intuition, much stronger psychic abilities. I started to have prophetic dreams. Some really amazing things began to happen in my life. The flow of synchronicity increased. So it was really awesome side effects, so to speak. And I'm thinking about, in particular, one time, I had a situation where I was living with a roommate who was very angry and passive-aggressive. And I noticed myself feeling really scared in relation to this, and also angry. And it was a very overwhelming experience for me. And I started to see frogs and started to know, okay, I need to do Kambo. And then the night before, I felt the presence of the frog with me, which I know that sounds hard to imagine what that means. But when you've been with this medicine, there's a presence that comes over you. There's a sense of a higher intelligence guiding the process. And you begin to recognize it over time. And I recognized it was with me the night before that I was going to do it. And I just had this awareness that this pattern playing out with my roommate at the time was a direct reflection of unresolved pain within me from childhood, where I had played this out with family members, where family members had played the role of this roommate. So after that next day when I purged, the roommate moved out. That's how quickly he left the mirror. And I had many experiences like this, where I could see direct connection, direct reflection. So that was really rewarding to know that as we purge, as we release what's not serving us, we really do allow in what does, and really do change our experience of our lives. So I found that really empowering. Intuitively, I sensed that I only needed to do 33 of these. So this 32nd was on the winter solstice this past year. That's what you watched. And then 33 was the day after. And I was really glad. I was like, wow, I made it. I made it through this intense, harrowing initiation process. It served me greatly. I noticed, like I said, my intuitive abilities were much improved. I felt lighter in general emotionally. My life circumstances had improved in many ways. It was really great. So then a couple months later, I started to have another intense experience of an emotion arising that was being triggered by life circumstances, and I saw frogs again. And I thought, well, what's going on here? I thought I only had to do 33. And a really interesting thing happened. I said, okay, well, if I'm being called, I'm going to do it, because I'm just going to listen, because I know to listen. And I sat down to do it with a practitioner and a good friend, and I watched my friend go first. And my friend chose to get the points burned onto her heart. Now that is like extremely painful. I have been getting them on my shoulder, mostly, and my friend chose her heart because she wanted to cleanse her heart chakra. And I watched her go through this process before me, and I was like, I don't have the resolve to sit through this again. I think I used up all the strength I had to bear all of this with those 33. I don't know what I'm going to do. So I said to the practitioner, who's super intuitive and a medicine woman herself, do you think maybe I don't need the medicine, but you can give me Kambo through vibration, through the song? Can you activate it? Because I had heard from some of my plant medicine teachers who are trained in the Amazon traditions with ayahuasca that really the song is one of the most important aspects of activating medicine. Because we live in a world that's entirely made of energy. It only looks dense, right? Reality is it's all energy vibrating. You sing the right vibration, you have the same thing as the physical medicine. And she did some divination and she said, you can do it. You can do it. And I was like, part of me was like, probably not real. Probably just hoping maybe I'll just drink all this water and throw up the water and I'll tell myself that I really did it, but I'm really just a wimp. That's what part of me said. Another part of me said, maybe this is real and I really only had to do 33 treatments with the physical medicine. So I drink the water. She starts to sing. And indeed, I purged. And I will show you what happened.
It went to sleep.
Yes.
Alex, are you okay? You don't want to yell your password across the whole room.
It is totally okay.
Okay.
Okay, we need you to type in.
What's the password?
So normally, I just want to share, I was throwing out clear, right? And not just because I drank water, but because most of the emotion I personally needed to purge was grief from childhood, abuse, many things. But you can throw up many other colors. You can throw up green, you can throw up yellow, you can throw up black. Someone in this room threw up black, right? You can throw up many different colors and they correspond to what organ you're purifying. So this was really interesting. So I sat and I listened to her songs and I felt the presence of the frog and I felt energetic shifting. It was physical to me. And I'll show you what came out of the bucket. Yep, picture please. That's a purge. That's not water. That's a real purge. I had fasted 12 hours and that's what came out. That white stuff is phlegm. And that brown stuff is a brown liquid that my body purged, and my practitioner felt intuitively that the purge was actually a parasite, that I purged out a parasite that had been in my family line for a long time that was anger. And it was really interesting because, thank you, you couldn't probably close the photo, people probably don't looking at my barf, thank you for showing. But I just wanted you to see that's not water, that was not psychosomatic, that was a real, actual purge. Yeah, so interestingly, I couldn't drink caffeine, like coffee, without getting angry. It just would stimulate my liver and make me angry until after this. Once this parasite was thrown out, I can now drink coffee and not get angry. It's pretty interesting. Yeah. So anyway, I call that spirit purging, and I've done it one other time since, actually a week or two ago. And this time I did it on my own without the practitioner, just listened to the medicine songs and had the intention to eat the fasting and drink the water. And I also experienced transformation, although I would say I experienced a lot more transformation with her present. So I think her holding space and her intention and her medicine energetically created the force, this activation. So I want to share as well that another reason that I felt like Kambo was really important for me to do beyond my own personal self-healing work was because I believe that each of us has a microcosm of the world within us, and that we come in here with the opportunity and the capacity to cleanse the inner world. When I've talked to my teachers in the world of plant medicine and shamanism with this desire to help the world, they have all said to me, heal yourself. That is how you heal the world. And at first I didn't really understand what they meant because I'm just one person and how can that be? But now that I understand this, that my reality is a mirror that I'm dreaming based on my internal harmony or lack thereof, I can see how I am impacting the world in a big way. And I also understand metaphysically that we're all very deeply connected, and that as one of us shifts, we all have this opportunity to shift. We're all able to open up to our own higher destiny and our own capacity to become our best selves and our healthiest selves. So I'm really grateful that I got to experience Kambo. It's not something that I'll do again unless the frogs start to show up. I would do the physical medicine again if I felt really strongly that I needed to. I would recommend it to anybody who feels called, but only if you feel called, because it is so physically harrowing and unpleasant. Would you be interested to see one more video?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay. So I mentioned I'm really sensitive and I don't like pain, and one of the things that Kambo has given me the chance to work with is my need to, as far as growth, to surrender, to allow. And one of the biggest challenges to really fully allowing yourself to be guided and to flow and to surrender and to open is pain. Because we all naturally have an aversion to pain, right? And we have to work through that. I'd like to show you somebody who is really good at not reacting to pain and allowing the experience and how that looks. Okay, and that was the gentleman behind you. Fox, yes. Interestingly, so you can go in with a really strong intention with a clear idea of emotionally what you want to throw out, or you can, and spiritually, or you can go in and just see what happens with the sense that you're meant to. And it works either way. And then the process itself, I wanted to show there, is something that's also an opportunity for spiritual development and growth and working with. So it's both beneficial in its effects and it's beneficial as a process in itself, as an ordeal, as an initiation experience, I feel. So I'd like to pause here and see if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, where did you do this at? Here?
Where did I do this?
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting question. So yes, the first time I did it was in my house, my apartment. My friend was a practitioner, and she came over to my house and did it there.
Okay.
As I was going through this existential crisis where I was being told internally, intuitively, not to get a job and not to initiate anything, eventually got evicted, nearly got evicted, and ended up moving in with her. Only person who had a room available that would rent to somebody on this path. And Fortunately, she did. And interestingly, I did a series of Kambo ceremonies in her, now my place, that became my place as well. We had a ceremony room there. And right before I moved in, I had this dream, this interesting prophetic dream that said, when you get to 22, something will happen. And I was like, what is going to happen? Money is going to happen? My career is going to happen? What is going to happen? That's not what happened. No. What happened was I did those series of 3 with Fox, and I watched him, and I fell in love with him. He fell in love with me too. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah. So, Frog brought us together. So isn't this a fun synchronicity? Look, check this out. This frog who looks like he's throwing up. Yeah. So if you're wondering where you can do this, you can go to iakp.org, International Association of Kambo Practitioners, iakp.org. The person that you saw in the video, her name is Yesia Muse, and she should be listed in the directory. And I would recommend her as a Kambo practitioner. There's many other people in Portland and other places as well. Other questions? Yes? Can you say that again? Yeah. So she asked, what was the most significant dramatic emotional shift from using Kambo, and could this shift be achieved in other ways? Yeah, thank you for asking. Yes, what comes to mind is last winter 2016, not this past one, the one before, when I was first starting this round, I was in a really deep depression, and I was aware of that. But I didn't recognize how deep this depression was or how heavy it was until after a series of 3 in a row. It's often done 3 days in a row. So I did a series of 3 in a row leading up to the New Year's Eve. I like to position it on astrologically or just otherwise impactful dates of transition to maximize the power and benefit. And interestingly, after that 3rd day, like immediately after that 3rd purge, that both myself and Yesia, the practitioner, both were taken aback as we both felt a vibrational shift in me. We both could sense I was suddenly way lighter. I worked really intensively on intention. What I mean by that is not necessarily just holding it really tight, but thinking really deeply about what is coming up in my life, what are the patterns and where do they come from? When have I experienced this feeling before? What's it remind me of? What's unresolved? And that really played a big role, I think, because what I was throwing out at that time was grief over not feeling supported, grief over feeling like I had to do life by myself in every way, emotionally, and throughout childhood in all these different ways. When I threw that out, I was immediately lighter. And I also suddenly, in the mirror of my life, began to attract a lot of friends, a lot of new friends that were really good for me, and also strong spiritual communities that weren't on my radar before, immediately after. So those were pretty cool shifts. It didn't cure depression nor anxiety for me, but I believe that those are 2 chronic conditions that are made up of multiple causes. I believe that they're caused by a buildup of pain from multiple lifetimes in many cases, and ancestral inheritances, as well as present life experiences. But also they can be a matter of biochemistry. They can be a matter of one's way of thinking. There are just so many different reasons for the causes. And Kambo is helpful for clearing. It's really about clearing things out. So it's not going to cure negative thinking, but it can cure what resonates with negative thoughts, the emotional resonance. And as far as other ways to have that kind of shift, yes, I believe that shamanic intuitive healing is very effective in that way. As a practitioner and as a client myself, I've seen many, many amazing, huge shifts on those kinds of things. it was interesting to me to explore, like, why am I being called to do it this way when I can conceive of it being done another way, and I have done it other ways. But my sense was that Kambo goes deeper, that maybe I would have to get many more sessions with a person, that this seemed to clear just so much more, like multiple lifetimes, multiple issues at once. Yeah, thank you for the question.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What do the different colors mean?
What do the different colors of purge mean?
Yeah.
Yes. So clear comes out of your lungs. In Chinese medicine, it's said that lungs hold sorrow and grief. Let's see, yellow, I believe, okay, I'm just going to have to guess at this because I'm not an expert on this right now. I know what I threw up and what it meant, but I mostly threw up clear. Green, I believe, was connected to the gallbladder, and I believe that that had to do with indecision and not being able to figure out which way to go, being stuck. Yellow, okay, here's a fun story. I think it's fun. You might think it's gross. Once I nose barfed. Yeah, it came out so fast and so intensely. It came out my nose, and it came out yellow. And that was when I was purging jealousy and anger, the feeling of like lack and frustration at seeing other people have clarity and not be able to have that clarity, or other people have certain things I wanted for myself. And I knew that I needed to throw that out. So I kept coming to Kambo with the sense of I need to purify my ego if I'm really on the spiritual path. It's okay to have our human emotions, but if they're really overwhelming and intense, then I probably need to deal with them. And so I would come in with that intention of like, okay, this is probably not who I want to be. So I'd like to throw this out. And it came out my nose, yellow. Yeah. And then the brown was parasites, and that had to do with anger, but I think rage could be yellow as well. Anybody else want to weigh in on color? Chris, I know you threw up black.
Yeah, black I think was parasites and like emotional entities.
Entities, yeah. Dark colors were entities, right? And it's interesting because entities can be, you can think of them as demons, you can think of them in many different ways, and they can attach to your parents, and they can be carried down your ancestral line, even before your parents and so forth. So it's really interesting that Kambo can clear that out. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
I was wondering for those of us who have worked with Kambo, if you have, since like the notion of this lecture was like up-leveling your experience, what, if we're going to continue to work with it, I guess, what do you have like specific advice for like, so you're going to work with Kambo, like, you know what I mean? Like if I'm already on board, does that question make sense? Like,
What kind of advice?
Integration,
Yes.
intention setting, like what can you tell those of us that are already down?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. So, if I understand correctly, like if you want to use Kambo for up-leveling, you're already working with Kambo, or you're already really open to working with Kambo, what would be the best approach? Is that
Anything you have to offer that's beyond like how it works?
Okay.
Like,
Yes.
many times.
Yeah, way more times than I wanted to.
Yeah. So like I thought I was like, wow, I really agree. So there are three stuff are going in my mind. So I was thinking like with all that experience, what you can tell.
Thank you. Yeah. So intention setting. So I would say that looking at what patterns are operating in your life, looking at what issues or blocks you are currently being faced with, exploring within what emotions arise around that, exploring, asking yourself the question, when have I felt like this before? And what does this situation remind me of? When have I felt this way before? What does this situation remind me of? Definitely holding the intention that you are honoring the frog is important, I believe. I don't know that if I hadn't treated the medicine with this respect, if I could have done the spirit purge experience. I felt like that was a really beautiful gift the frog gave me, because it's sort of recognition, like you're really doing this the right way, as sort of a returned gift. That's kind of how I interpreted it. So I think really just not forcing Kambo as the solution for difficulty, but really asking, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Send me confirmation that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Looking for signs and omens that confirm that this is the right time and that this is the right medicine and this is the right way to work with it. Thanking the frog when you sit with Kambo seems important. Thanking it for its medicine. It doesn't harm the frog to have its medicine harvested. It's just a resin that comes off the skin of the frog, but I'm sure it's a traumatic experience for the frog, even though it's not physically threatening to it to be captured and then and tied up and held in this way. So even though it's abundant, I think just having that respect and honoring the frog spirit and connection with the frog spirit as well during the process and asking it to clear you and asking it to guide you and guide your process and trying as much as you can to trust it, which honestly is really hard at times when you're physically so freaked out and uncomfortable, because it does feel like you might die, especially if your throat swells up and you can't breathe very well. You really do feel like you're out of control, and there's thoughts, at least in my experience, thoughts come through your mind like, what am I doing? Why did I agree to this? So I think just trying to trust the frog and answering those fears with no, I'm choosing this and I believe in this and thank you. Having that gratitude seems really important. As far as integration, I think being grateful is a huge form of integration, and then also just noticing that I think using Kambo to clear emotional pain is really a powerful tool, but it can't change the way we think. We have to do that. So we have to be aware of our limiting beliefs. We have to be aware of what our positive affirmations could become. So I would say that's an important part of integration is looking at what changes we have to make outside of removing the resonance. So I find that we can't really change our ways of being and we can't really change our ways of thinking without changing our emotional resonance. And so clearing pain is just a really important aspect of that, but it's not the full picture. And so I think having those reasonable expectations is important too. This openness to miracles, at the same time understanding that we have layers and that, astrologically we hit a certain full moon and all of a sudden all this stuff comes up. We get triggered, all these things that we thought were resolved, it turns out we have to look at yet again. Just having this humbleness and understanding that there's layers to this process and there's a sense of mystery to the process all really helps. I hope that answers your question.
Can I also ask how you chose the cadence? How did you choose the pace? For example, what made you not say, okay, 33 times speak to me, I'm going to do that in my life, instead of closing it in here, basically? Is it more?
So how did I choose to space them, and how did I, I didn't set out to do 33. I set out to try the set of 3 that my friend said should hopefully help me feel better, and it did. It really did. And then I got to this place after the first 3 where I was like, okay, I'm able to meditate, I'm able to trust my path, I'm able to live the things I believe right now, and then slowly that slipped away. And then I was not sleeping, I was really scared, I couldn't function. And so essentially it was just a survival choice of obviously I need Kambo because nothing else is going to get me through. I need to get back to a place of peace where I can operate the right way in alignment. And so I just had to do it when I couldn't handle not doing it. Really. And then 33, that number came after, after 25, because I started to be is this forever? Am I just never going to feel better? How long is this the shamanic path for me? Am I supposed to be a practitioner or something? And I asked myself that question many times, and I just kept going, no, I don't want to do that to people. I mean, I've worked as an intuitive healer, and I like that much better. I don't mind watching people barf, but it doesn't feel like my calling. Yeah, so it's just an intuitive sense of 33 was just what I felt like I needed to do, and combination of how much suffering I couldn't stand and how much this medicine was being made available. Living with this practitioner was very helpful, right? So at this point, we're not living together, and it's not really one of the options that I keep on the table. Fortunately, I feel tremendously better. I'm not going to those states. I'm finding at this point that even though I may experience periods of sadness and depression experiences, I'm able to manage it with other tools. And it feels like layers got cleared out. I'm a much lighter person now, and it's all manageable with tools like mindfulness and lighter things. great question.
I was wondering if, does anybody want to come up and share, is it okay with you?
Yeah.
Come up and share their combo story? No.
Just watching the videos of you getting the treatment triggered the experience for me to where I felt so nauseous I had to go
You had to go
stand
throw up?
outside. Yeah, it was pretty brutal for me. So that the frog is not calling to me right now. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it is a really brutal experience in a way, even though it's a very beautiful experience because it's an experience. I mean, I think it's an entheogen. A lot of times that term, entheogen, right, invoking an inner divinity, is used for psychedelics, things that make you trip and have visions. And while this does not, it certainly is an experience of your inner divinity and of something greater and tapping into that.
Yeah.
But it is also brutal and really hard to sit through. And I don't think anybody else needs to do 33 necessarily. I'm on this path, and I specifically, I think that this is part of what I had to do because I specifically said, this is my agreement. It's I'm here trying to do whatever it is I need to do in order to embody my soul and carry out whatever it is that my mission is. And I feel like this is, it sort of was oh, really? You're a warrior? Okay. Let's see.
Yeah.
Sort of felt like it was, in a way, words mean something, but actions mean more. And it seemed like it was a demonstration that I was being put through. But I'm working with other medicines also, and I think there's many, many paths to healing, and I think Kambo is just one. I think it's a very powerful and special one. I think anyone who's done it, including yourself, should pat yourself on the back. That's a warrior initiation, it really is. And that's what it's used for, traditionally. I mean, among other things, it's a warrior initiation. Yeah. Oh, and I quickly want to say, I've heard other people say that they've watched my video and thrown up after. I think,
It was the drumming.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's what was kind of triggering.
Well, yeah, because the frequency it hit. I only did Kambo twice, so I don't have any credentials in this regard. But I will say that in using the medicine without the intention to do so, I was able to get off of SSRIs immediately afterwards. So that's a really profound and positive benefit, which was not intended in going into working with the medicine. So that was fascinating. But the other pieces that were very interesting, as Tara was pointed out, that it's a warrior initiation. There was a very heightened sense of clarity, both in terms of physical and mental clarity. For instance, depth perception in the immediate aftermath was profoundly improved, at least for me. I'm not sure if that flows from your experiences. Likewise, just a strong clear-headedness resulted. So I'm not going to go beyond that because, again, I'm a novice in this realm, but there are, at least in my lived experience, some profound changes that have emerged because of the receptiveness to the medicine.
Thank you for sharing that.
Does anybody else have any more questions?
Or anybody else want to share your Kambo experience before and after? No?
Or other psychedelic experience? Trip report?
I can share a little more if you want, or we can close it up. Up to you guys.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
How's everybody feeling? Would you like to get up and mingle, or do you want to hear more? I won't be offended. Just I want to know who the room wants. More? Okay, I'll just share a little bit more. I did also experience lightness right after, clarity right after, definitely, and I felt like that lasted for about 2 weeks after, it seemed. And I liked how it looked after, too. I noticed that inflammation in my skin was down, that I just felt like I had a lot more physical energy as well, more vitality. I noticed that cravings for unhealthy substances were decreased as well. For example, sugar cravings were gone. So it was really helpful as well for working with clearing candida, and Kambo does clear candida. So if anyone is struggling with that, it's a really excellent tool for killing candida. And I thought I would share a little bit about another medicine that I've worked with that this kind of has to do with for me. I wanted to keep this talk really specific to Kambo, but actually, in my experience, this really has a lot to do with ayahuasca too for me. And what I mean by that is I had an ayahuasca experience a couple years ago where it was a 2-night ceremony, and the medicine showed me on the first night the deepest aspects of my shadow, which was very unpleasant to have to witness. Basically, I saw myself being an asshole. I saw myself in my ego. I saw myself judging people. I saw myself being pretty selfish. And it was like hard to be confronted with that. And during that night, I, asked the medicine, like, I don't want to be this way. I want to be living from my best self. And there was an interesting thing happening because there was a war in my psyche between my ego and then the part of me, the better part of me, so to speak. And I was in a fight. I was like seeing like fire, and like it was just like a war happening, a battle happening within me internally. And I just kept asking for the medicine to. It was interesting. Part of me was actually saying "fuck you" to the medicine, and the other part of me was like, "Thank you, Mother. Thank you. Help me." And then the next night, it seemed that the better parts of me, my soul, my my Buddha nature, so to speak, right, had won out. And she showed me what the best aspects of myself were. So the first night confronted me with the lowest aspects of myself, and then the second night showed me the highest aspects of myself. And in that night, I experienced telepathy with the facilitators, like full-on telepathy, like, think, please come here, physically. They showed up here. And like, we confirmed this the next day, that this really happened. I experienced a state of love, a state of just bliss, pretty much. I was in a bliss state the entire night, pretty much, and just deep inner peace, oneness with all that is. I actually didn't have to breathe for a while because I was pure energy. I just had the like most dramatic experience of my highest potential. And I had this experience as well of affecting the entire group by holding the vibration of love and watching its effect on other people in the circle, which was really cool. And after that experience, I thought, wow, I would really like to embody my higher aspects, and how do I get from these lower aspects to the higher aspects? Because after that 2-night ceremony, I was back to just being who I am, which is a mix of all of that, right? Like we all are. And what I came to in my experience receiving a lot of healing work and being on this journey was that the lower aspects were really just side effects of pain. The experience of myself as a separate being and having that, those experiences of the ego mind, competition and fear and a sense of being less or more than others or judging other people and all that kind of stuff was really just a side effect of pain. That whole concept of being separate, that whole concept of needing to protect yourself, of scarcity, all this stuff was just entirely made up of pain. And so the healthier I got, including especially through Kambo, the more I noticed myself embodying my higher aspects, and the less I noticed myself embodying my lower aspects. I certainly still have all of them, but I've noticed that the lower aspects seem less intense and more manageable, and the higher aspects seem more accessible. And so I've noticed as well that I seem to feel more connected to other people, and I have a more balanced ego at this point because of all of that healing work. And I think Kambo played a tremendous role in that. And having that intention, I think, played a big role as well for the length of the process. Just wanted to share that as well.
I have a question. Do you have an opinion on, well, I haven't done it, but I understand there's 2 ways to do it, where you get like the full dose right away, or you get like slowly.
Kambo.
Yeah, like
You-
I don't know if you have experience with both.
Layering.
Yeah.
You're talking about layering? No, I haven't experienced layering because I want to get it over with. And if you're going to layer, you're going to sit with Kambo medicine longer. Yeah. Good question. Yeah.
How long is a session?
Yeah, how long? It depends. Sometimes it seems like it's over in 15 minutes, and sometimes it takes an hour.
When you said there's no visuals or like transcendence or anything, like what is it like, sort of, or?
No visuals, no transcendence in that way. However, I do experience a presence.
Okay.
And I do experience like a deep sense of peace underneath all of this pain. And if you cannot focus on that, or if you can do a smaller dose where you're not in extreme pain, you can really start to feel a deep sense of peace within.
Okay.
And oftentimes, awarenesses and insights come to you intuitively that you wouldn't have otherwise. Kind of like a deep inner knowing experience. Would you agree? Any other questions or comments?
Okay. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you, Carla, for your amazing.
With that, we'll wrap up. Thanks a lot for all you guys coming out. We're here every Thursday night at the Paris. Check us out on Meetup or on Facebook to follow our events. Thank you so much, everyone. We have Paul Stamets, the famous mycologist, coming to a conference in September, and we're working on getting Dennis McKenna to speak for us in October, so those are big events that we have coming up.